Even with Pakistan's notoriously tumultuous politics, recent years have been particularly chaotic. After Imran Khan was removed from office by a vote of no confidence, Pakistan now has a new government. The weeks leading up to the vote were dramatic and exciting. Currently, there's a political and economic crisis in the country. Welcome to Finance Professor, your one-stop channel for global economic updates. A crucial, if troubled, global actor now runs the risk of going into a full-blown crisis as a result of a string of escalating catastrophes, including catastrophic flooding, political gridlock, soaring inflation, and a resurgent terror threat. If the worst happens, as some analysts will fear, the disaster that is developing in Pakistan will have an impact that extends far beyond its own boundaries. The largest economic crisis to hit Pakistan since its founding in 1947 is just getting started. Ironically, none of the 14 loans Pakistan has ever received from the IMF so far has ever been repaid. As a result, it becomes extremely doubtful that the Pakistan state will ever be able to escape the situation. If China or Saudi Arabia do not save Pakistan, the nation may suffer a catastrophe unlike any other. In relation to the US dollar, the Pakistani rupee has collapsed to PKR 250, losing 13% of its value. The government of the nation increased the cost of petrol and diesel by 35 Pakistani rupees per litre. While the former Prime Minister is spearheading rallies across the nation, criticizing the government's legitimacy and urging new elections, Shahbaz Sharif's new government has been indecisive and is having trouble getting off the ground. Pakistan is also experiencing a severe climatic emergency at the time. Not only are the political emotions rising, but Pakistan is experiencing an extreme heat wave. Understanding the collapse of the Khan's government is essential to solving the current crisis. Despite being the first Prime Minister in Pakistan to be removed by a no-confidence vote, Khan joined each of his predecessors in not serving for their full 5 years that make up the election term in the parliament. With Khan being referred to as selected by the military rather than elected, Pakistan's major opposition parties have been demanding for his resignation ever since he took office. In the fall of 2020, they created an alliance called the Pakistan Democratic Movement, or PDM, with that goal in mind. The opposition picked up some steam this spring. On the surface, the opposition attributed Khan's failings in terms of leadership and the economy. However, the real reason their strategies worked was that Khan had lost the backing of Pakistan's military, which had supported his ascent to power. The rift between Khan and the military, which had previously operated on the much-touted same page, was caused by a number of circumstances. The greatest was a deadlock about the transfer of the Inter-Services Intelligence, or ISI, Director General in October 2021. Khan resisted approving the Director General's transfer for weeks despite the military having already given its clearance. Khan was loyal to the then ISI leader, and it was believed that Khan wanted him to be present for the next election. The military claimed to have turned neutral, but once Khan lost their support, the opposition was given the opportunity to act. Khan lost his slender majority in the National Assembly when two minor parties that were affiliated with him in the ruling coalition moved to the opposition. IMF representatives have reportedly had their most recent conversations with Pakistan via video link, and, according to the sources, they have not indicated any inclination to loosen the restrictions and would not release the next tranche unless the Pakistani government meets its commitments. Pakistan would get $1.2 billion from the IMF after agreeing to the terms, with potential additional funding from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, China, and other institutional lenders. Pakistan has a problem because of its embarrassing history of failing to adhere to IMF requirements. With the termination of the IMF rescue package in 2020, flood losses in June 2022, and governmental mismanagement causing an economic crisis in 2022, Pakistan's immediate economic troubles have endured for more than 3 years. According to a major revision in the macroeconomic framework by the government that was shared with the IMF, real GDP growth is forecast to fall from 5% to 1.5% to 2%, and inflation to rise from 12.5% to 29% on average in the current fiscal year. According to the IMF delegation that is now Pakistan, the Federal Board of Revenue's, or FBR, tax to GDP ratio is destined to drop, even if it meets the expected annual tax collection target of the Rs 7,470 billion. Before we move on, subscribe to Finance Professor, and also enable that bell icon for more finance-related videos. Pakistan's public debt has increased to a startling $270 billion, while its foreign reserves have reportedly shrunk to a mere $3.7 billion, hardly enough for a few weeks of energy imports to keep its cities and companies operating. The conflict in Ukraine impacted Pakistan particularly hard, forcing it and other developing nations into a price war for scarce liquid natural gas that they could not afford. The most fundamental needs of Pakistanis are already showing symptoms of being impacted by economic hardship. Power was lost for more than 24 hours throughout all of Pakistan, an unprecedented nationwide blackout. The outage may be a sign of things to come, even though its origin is unknown. The economic crisis is accompanied by political unrest, which might weaken the state's grip and make Pakistan more challenging to govern as time goes on. Imran Khan has been holding massive rallies in an effort to reclaim his position as Prime Minister after being ousted from office last year amid a fight with his former friends in the military that he alleged was a US-led conspiracy. Khan was wounded in an attempted assassination last November when a gunman shot him during an election rally. This occurred amid a wave of targeted killings and arrests of his allies and supporters. In Pakistani politics, Khan is a divisive figure with a sizable and devoted fanbase. It's easy to foresee Pakistan escalating into a protracted civil war if Khan had been assassinated. Currently, despite their ferocious differences, all of the major political parties are committed to maintaining the integrity of the nation, and the military continues to serve as the potent final arbiter of political disputes. However, corrosive political infighting and frequent leadership transitions have made it harder to manage Pakistan's economy responsibly, leading the country towards bigger issues. In recent months, Balochistan, a province with abundant natural resources, has seen a rise in both ethnic militants and terrorism from extreme Islamist organizations. Following a horrific suicide bombing last month that claimed the lives of over 100 worshippers attending Friday prayers at a mosque, the Pakistani Taliban, who killed thousands of Pakistanis during the War on Terror, made their comeback known. The strike serves as a reminder that Pakistan may once again be affected by instability in nearby Afghanistan, which has seen tens of thousands of casualties during the previous 2 decades of American involvement. The slow-moving recovery of millions of people across the nation following the record flooding, which submerged 1/3 of Pakistan's landmass and forced millions of its poorest residents to flee their homes, has also been impacted by the country's economic and political issues. Despite the fact that the weather nation's contributions to global warming can be partially responsible for the tragedy, Pakistan has mostly been left to pick up the pieces on its own due to tardiness and insufficient international aid. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Asif Ali Zardari, who is well known for his outrageous personal corruption, allegedly warned American diplomat Richard Holbrooke that Pakistan was too big to fail, and compared it to American banks that got large bailouts to avoid collapse in 2008. The ability of Pakistan's leaders to unite and find a solution to the barrage of crises, possibly the worst in the nation's history, remains to be unseen. This is despite the fact that Pakistan is a nuclear power and the 5th most populous nation in the world. But that will be it for today's video. Subscribe to Finance Professor for more incredible finance updates, and check out other videos on this channel if you're a finance enthusiast.